All right, good morning. So in this chapter, I'm going to be talking about resistance training and some of the little different concepts that goes along with that. So why do we do resistance training? So one, it improves your cardiovascular efficiency, improves your hormones, adaptations like endocrine, cholesterol, so forth. Increases your muscular hypertrophy. Okay, so that enlargement of your muscles. Increases bone density. Okay, increases your metabolism, decreases body fat, increases neuromuscular control. Okay, so all that coordination increases. Increases connective tissue strength, especially your tendons and ligaments. Okay, this does take a decently longer period of time for that adaptation to change, just because there's very limited blood flow to your tendons and ligaments, but they do get substantially stronger as a result. You do have increased muscular endurance, strength, and power, obviously. You don't always get the big bulk, especially for, let's say, women. One of the biggest items with females is they don't want to lift because they're going to get bulky. That is very much a myth. Testosterone is the kind of like leading hormone that is associated with that kind of muscle bulk. Females don't get bulk; they get very, very lean. So that's a big thing to keep in mind. So that's totally a myth why women don't lift. It's really beneficial for them to. Um, my wife is not very big. She's pretty lean. Even she's like 7 months post baby, and she lifts every day. And she's never gotten big. All right. So gas. So general adaptation syndromes. Okay. So this is described as the way the body responds and adapts to stress. Okay. Usually alarm phase, resistance, and exhaustion. Okay. So the initial way I learned this was, let's say you somewhere really cold up in the mountains or Antarctica, wherever it is, and you fall through the ice in the water. Okay. So your general alarm stage is, for one, you're very, very alert, obviously, and freezing. Okay. And then you have this resistance stage. So you're trying to fight to stay above water. Okay. And then at some point, if you don't overcome that resistance, you fall into utter exhaustion and then you die, kind of thing. Usually you don't want to get all the way to the exhaustion per se, but that's just the general initial way I learned. So in here, the alarm reaction, so initial reaction to stressors such as fatigue, joint stiffness, and DOMS. DOMS is delayed onset muscle soreness. That's usually that soreness you get usually within the first day or two after a workout, especially if you haven't done that workout or activity in a decent amount of time. It usually lasts about 3-4 days, give or take. There's not really anything you can do for DOMS. It's just kind of a normal stage. I wouldn't recommend that, let's say you have DOMS, to just not do anything. It definitely feels better the more active you are. So you can go do it again, the same like workout. You can go like on a walk, on a jog, and definitely you're going to feel a lot better during the DOMS. Then your resistance development. Okay, so increased functional capacities to adapt to the stressors, such as increased recruitment of muscle fibers. Okay, I think the exhaustions could be kind of a prolonged, intolerable stressor that produces fatigue and leads to injury or a breakdown in the system. So we usually don't want to get to the straight exhaustion phase. This is definitely the kind of like overtraining aspect. So you don't want to do arms and brow 7 days a week. Okay, that's not good for your arms. Okay, you do need enough time for your body to kind of repair itself. All right, and the SAID principle. Okay, specific adaptation to impose demand. Okay, so all that means is your body's got to adapt to whatever's going on. Okay, so if you keep lifting weights, your body's got to adapt. So your bones going to get thicker, your tendons are going to get stronger, but your muscles are going to get bigger and stronger. It's just how your body adapts. And it goes both directions. So if you're not active, your body's not going to waste the resources of maintaining your muscle girth. Okay, it's just going to lose it. That's all it is. Okay, so here, specifically our entry systems, okay, will adapt to whatever it is. Your training mode will adapt. Muscle groups and movement patterns will adapt, and posture. All these things will adapt as you train them. And you do need a certain amount of stress for your body to react. Okay, so if you're training to lift a certain amount of weight, well, you have to start lifting up to that certain amount of weight. You can't just start with like 10 pounds and expect to be moving 50 pounds at some point just by lifting just at 5. So you guys increase it and stress your body. Okay, so that's pretty much that said principle. Progressive adaptation to resistance training. Okay, so stabilization, ability to provide optimal dynamic joint support during all motions. Super important. Muscular endurance, ability to produce and maintain force production for prolonged periods of time. Muscle hypertrophy, okay, so the enlargement of your skeletal muscles. Strength, ability of your neuromuscular system to produce internal tension and overcome an external load. Okay, and then power, okay, which is that rate of force production. Some different variables, okay, which would be reps, sets, intensity, tempo, intervals, volume, frequency, duration, exercises, the order you do them in. Those are all variables that you can control. And they're all very, very important, depending on whatever you're trying to do. For example, okay, repetitions, number of times the exercise is completed. Okay. Repetitions can be categorized as low, moderate, or high, depending what it is. Some even reps will go, this is 12 plus. I've had some people do 25 reps. Okay. Or you can just do the straight to exhaustion kind of thing. Okay. Sets, which is a group of repetitions. That's all it is. Usually it's like 3 sets of 5, 3 sets of 10, whatever it is. Okay. Usually some inverse relationship between the sets, reps, and intensity. So lighter weight, you're going to do fewer sets and higher reps. And heavier weight, you're going to do more sets and lower reps. Training intensity. So an individual's level of effort, usually expressed in a percentage, like percentage of the 1 rep max is whatever it is. And it takes a little bit of time to kind of build up for them to be comfortable to attempt that 1 rep max. A lot of times people do a percentage of a 3 rep max, and that kind of give you roughly what your 1 rep max will be. And that's usually how you're going to gauge everything off that. So it is a decent amount of math at times. Just know that. All right, so more on training variables. So like stabilization and muscular endurance. Okay, so you're going to do moderate to high reps usually, low to moderate sets, and low to moderate training intensities. Okay, usually how it goes. For muscle hypertrophy, okay, usually low to moderate reps, 6 to 12, moderate to high sets, and then a decent moderate to high intensity. Okay, muscle strength, you're doing really low reps, like 1 to 5. High sets, high training intensities, up to 100% of your 1 rep max. And then power, low to moderate reps, moderate to high sets, but low intensity. Because remember, you're throwing around weight usually. And this is more like how far can you throw a medicine ball? You're not going to throw a medicine ball that's 100% of your 1 rep max. That's just insane. Okay, kind of thing. So usually the intensities are a lot lower for the power. Tempo, the speed at which each rep is performed. Slower stimulates the muscle hypertrophy, stabilization, and muscular endurance. Faster is more strength and power. Especially what's like the eccentric speed of some of these is really, really important because that can help establish and grow, really affect your tendons and ligaments, really, because it puts more stress on some of them. And as a result, they can help them kind of improve and stabilize. Example 1, so push-up using a 4-2-1-1 tempo involves the following. Okay, so lowering of the body towards the floor. Okay, that's your eccentric phase. Okay, over 4 seconds. Pause of the body with the chest slightly above the floor for 2 seconds. Okay, there's your isometric contraction. And then pushing upwards and returning to the top position 1 second. Okay, concentric. Pausing on the top position for 1 second before repeating the next rep. Okay, another isometric. Okay, so 4-2-1-1. Okay, usually they don't do the second isometric, ideally. So you'll usually see it as like a 4-2-1. Is that? Oh, sorry. Another example, bicep curls. Okay, a 3-0-1-2 tempo. Okay. Okay, so you're curling up. Okay, concentric, 1 second usually. Just have it at a controlled tempo. Okay, usually going up. Pause at the top for 2 seconds. Okay, the isometric, a lot harder than you think. And then the lowering for 3 seconds. Okay, that eccentric, which is 1, 2, 3. Okay, it takes a little bit longer. All right. Rest intervals. Okay, so that's kind of time in between sets. That's all it is. Okay. Just general recommendations. For the stabilization and muscular endurance, about 30-60 seconds. For muscle hypertrophy, again, 30-60. Maximal strength, 30-50, and same with power. And that just allows for all your ATP to kind of recuperate and allow for you to do that maximal effort during the next set. All right, training volume. Okay, so training volume is a sum of the repetitions performed in each set during each training session multiplied by resistance. Okay, so reps times sets times weights. That's all it is. Excuse me. Training frequency. Okay, total number of weekly training sessions. Okay, whatever it is. For example, beginner is usually 2 to 3 sessions per week. Okay, out of usually a 7-day week. Intermediate is 3 if using total body training, 4 if using split. Advanced is usually 4 to 6, performing many sessions in a single day. That's all it is. Training duration, amount of time of a training session, average about 30 to 90 minutes, usually what it is. And sometimes that usually doesn't incorporate the kind of warm-ups and cool-downs. Okay, depending on what you're trying to do. Exercise selection. Okay, exercises that reflect clients' goals, level, functional abilities, and based on the assessment results. Okay, so resistance exercises, order recommendations. So the larger muscle groups prior to smaller ones. Okay, multi-joint exercises prior to single leg exercises, and that's important because you're gonna use like the bigger, bigger muscle groups and the more complex movements early, because you don't want to fatigue on these smaller ones, and then your form goes to crap. Okay, because then it results in injury and not good exercises. So usually I'm going to start off with the bigger ones. Let's say I'm going to start off with like barbell cleans or squats, just because you can totally exhaust all those muscles associated with those big lifts. Let's say the squat, your glutes, your quads, and your backs could be really exhausted. And then after you get done with all your sets and reps for your squats, you move on to your calf raises, leg extensions, hamstring curls, RDLs, whatever you want to do, kind of thing. Go. Exercise order. Okay, I talked a little bit about that. Okay, so fatigue level, client's ability is really, really important. The second one is multi-joint and single joint, which is usually the one I use. Just the two different methods that they have. All right, resistance training systems. Okay, so there's a number of different ones. Okay, so these are the common ones. So warm-up sets, single set systems, multi-set, pyramid, superset, complex, drop sets, giants, rest pause, circuit training, peripheral action, split routine, vertical, and horizontal. Okay, there's a lot of different ways. You might have done these in the past and not realized it. So when we talk about it, you're like, oh yeah, I remember those. Some are more common than others. All right, the first one to talk about is the single and multi-sets. So usually the single set is you're just doing one set of whatever exercise you have prescribed. And the multi-set is obviously you're just doing multiple sets. Okay, so usually you would have one warm-up set, okay, or 1 to 2 at usually a lower intensity. Helps kind of like the person usually prep for it. Then if you're doing a single set, perform just one set of the exercise, then multi-set per multiple. Okay, so for example, squats. Okay, so I might do a warm-up set with 135 for me, okay, which is just the bar and 145 plate on each side. Okay, so that's be my warm-up. Maybe I'll do a second one to kind of just increase that. Maybe I'll throw on additional like 25s on top of that, just to kind of like get me going. And then my next set, which would be like my real set, is going to be maybe 245s each side, for example. Okay. And so forth. But sometimes you'll just have them do like maybe like, let's say starting someone out like pretty light. Maybe I'll have them start off with just the bar. Okay. Okay. So give me like one set of 8. Okay. That's your warm up. And then after that, if we're doing like a single set, we'll do one more set of 8. Maybe I'll throw on maybe a 10s or 25s on each side, depending on the person's 1RM. Okay. But if we're doing multiple, all right. So like we got warm-ups out of the way of like 135, let's say for me, and then I might go up to 180 for my second warm-up, and then it's 225, and then I might add or take away depending on how I'm feeling that day. Next one would be pyramid. Okay, so pyramid, you usually start off with higher reps, lower weight, and you invert and go back down. So let's say your first set is 12 reps lightweight, and then you do 8, and each set you add on more weight, whatever that you dictate that to be. Okay, a lot of people will add on like 10s or 20s, or whatever it is. So the first one's 10 reps, then you go 8, 6, 4, 2, 1, and after that, you start increasing the reps, and then you start taking weight off. Okay, so that's the pyramid. Next one's going to be supersets. Now, I'm not a huge fan of supersets personally. I need more break in between. I'm also a little lazy in that regards. My wife is a superset fanatic, and it drives me a little crazy. I can't work out with her because she's supersetting everything. So usually exercise is performed in rapid succession, one after another, typically 8 to 10 reps with no rest between sets of exercises. Okay, so there's bisets, so 2 exercises of the same muscle group, trisets, 3 exercises of the same muscle group, giant sets, 3 or more exercises. It's almost like a mini circuit in a way, and then opposite muscle. This is the really common one to do. You just exercising the opposite muscle group that you're usually primary training. And that allows what like your main one to do. Let's say you're doing bench, okay, and then your superset is going to be, for me, I would do like bicep curls, okay, just because that's an opposite muscle of what I'm currently training, so that gives me time for my chest and triceps to calm down. Okay, a little break for that while still trying to squeeze in more exercises. Okay, or I'll do a back exercise or whatever it is. Opposite muscle groups is really common. Just gives you time, but some people just like to exhaust. So my wife will usually do bi or trisets, just because she can. So those supersets. Complex training. Okay, so alternate heavy resistance exercises with an explosive power exercise. Called a post-activation. I'm gonna screw this up. Potentation. Sorry. Good luck with that. All right. So heavy exercise first stimulates the neuromuscular system to produce higher force during the next exercise. Okay. So it's volume dependent. So 3 to 5 sets or more heavy resistance power exercises. Okay. So it usually requires 72 hours rest between these sessions. Is all that is. Next would be drop sets. Okay, so perform a set of failure, then remove a small percentage of the load, usually 5 to 20%, and you continue with the set with a set to complete a small number of reps. Okay, 2 to 4. Okay, usually do 2 to 3 drop sets. Okay, giant set, which is 3 more exercises completed in succession for a specific muscle group. Okay, repetitions usually 8 to 12. Rest interval usually about 5 to 15 seconds to several minutes between sets, depending wherever it is. Rest pause sets. Okay, so it's a moderate to heavy load with a short rest interval. So usually the recommended sequence is perform a set of a specific number of reps. Set the weight down and take several deep breaths, usually about 15 seconds or so. Okay, and then you complete some more reps, pretty much to failure. In the module, I did put in a little bit on some advanced training techniques. Okay, so he goes more in depth on the rest pause. Okay, and then I also put in there one of the Jeff Nippard effective reps. It's actually a pretty good video. It's about 10 minutes long. He talks about the best reps of that workout, whatever they are, and some of the rationale behind it. Circuit training, I believe we talked about this in some other modules in this course. So a series of exercises performed one after another with minimal rest between each exercise. Okay, so sets you can do 1 to 3, reps is 8 to 20, whatever it is. Rest periods minimal. For example, here, okay, the first station is push-ups. Second one is standing cable. Third is a ball combo. Fourth is step-ups to balance, and then 6 is RDLs. 6 is a single leg calf raise, and then 7th is a rest. And then you'll repeat that. Let's say you're doing it 3 sets, so 3 times. A lot of time you'll see is for the reps, it's going to be timed. For example, it's going to be 30 seconds in each station. So you do 30 seconds of push-ups, however many you get done in 30 seconds. And then 30 seconds in the standing cable throw and so forth. And then you'll finally get a break 30 seconds in stage 7. And you could break this up however you want. You could throw 2 rests in there, depending if whatever the workouts are. You can have fun with it, whatever it is. Usually the circuit training gets stuff done pretty quickly. So let's say this is 30 seconds. It's a 3.5 minute set right here. So, I mean, you get the whole thing done in 10 minutes, which is pretty quick, and you're utterly exhausted. Peripheral heart action system. Okay, so another variation circuit training that alternates upper body and lower body exercises throughout the circuit. So the system of training distributes blood flow between upper and lower extremities, potentially improving circulation. Okay, so sets a variable, however you want to do it. Reps is 8 to 20. Rest periods minimal. Example is dumbbell chest press, and then you're going squats, and then you're going machine row, and then you're doing RDLs, and then you're doing dumbbell shoulder press. Okay, so upper, lower, upper, lower, upper. Okay, back and forth, which isn't a bad idea because with a lot of the kind of circuit trainings, everyone tends to do a lot of upper body only exercises. And it's really important to mix them up and get a lot of lower body stuff in there. Don't bro out. All right, split routines. Okay, so a split routine system involves breaking up the body into parts to be trained on separate days. Okay, so a lot of people do this. For example, if you're doing like 2 days a week, Monday's upper body, Thursday's lower body, or calling in sick. If you're doing 3 days, okay, maybe you're doing chest one day, chest and tries, then Wednesday legs, and then Fridays back and biceps. And then you just break it down however you want. Some people will oscillate one, or will do like an upper and lower, however you want to do it. So that is the split routine. Vertical load. Okay, so you're alternating body parts, training from set to set, starting from upper extremity and moving towards the lower extremity. For example, let's say you got total body exercise, chest, back, shoulders, biceps, tries, and legs. Okay, so you're going to do all the sets. Okay, working down. Let's say you're going to do your total body. Let's say you're doing cleans. Okay, dumbbell cleans. And then you got bench, and then you got back, and then you got shoulders and biceps, tries, and legs. And then you're going to do it again, the whole thing. okay, versus the horizontal load, which is performed by doing all sets of exercises. You complete that before moving on, which is usually the most common one. So let's say the total body, let's say you're doing the barbell cleans. So you're going to do all 3 sets of 8, okay, before moving on to your leg exercise, okay. Going back to the vertical one, you're going to do 1 set of the cleans, and then you're going to go to chest, and then you're going to go back, and you do all these, and that's 1 set, and then you're going to repeat it again for your second set. Okay, so that's a horizontal versus vertical loads. Okay, just know all those. All right, safety. Next thing. Safety is very, very important. If someone gets hurt, they're usually not going to come back, or they take a good amount of time, or get very, very frustrated, whatever it is. Okay, so make sure the environment is safe. Okay, very, very important. Make sure there's not a lot of free stray weights that people can trip over. Making sure people are wearing the proper items, usually closed-toe athletic shoes, very, very important. Clothing that can move around in. Making sure any of the equipment doesn't have any kind of razor-sharp edges, whatever it is. If things are padded, make sure that they're padded. Make sure there's no rips in any of like the benches. A lot of bacteria can get in there and kind of grow, and you don't want any staph infections or kind of spreading out throughout all your members or wherever you're at. So make sure everything is in proper shape and in the right spots is very, very important. Okay. Making sure if you're teaching someone the proper setup for whatever the equipment is, okay, don't try and kind of piece things together, which can be very popular, especially during COVID times. A lot of people were building their own equipment just because you couldn't find stuff. I bought a squat rack or a cage, and after I bought it, the factory shut down. So like, you know what, it's good. We're looking at probably 6 months to a year before we can even complete the order. Just for that, and I ended up finding another one from Rogue just because they ended up opening their factory up a little bit earlier. We managed to get one in time, but prices went up absurd amounts for some of this stuff. I mean, a 45-pound plate, people are charging like $400 for it. It's just unreal during all this COVID stuff. And a lot of people were building their own equipment, which some look great, and others were like, man, you're just like asking to hurt yourself. Some people were using like wood, which was not a bad option, but wood can break down, especially when they're heavy loads, depending on how you have it done. Okay. All right, spotting. Okay, so spotting technique. So the recommendation that NASM gives you, spotter should regulate the number of total reps performed by the client prior to beginning each set. Okay, so you have to have that good communication. Next, the spotter should stand and maintain a stable, wide body stance, increase the maximal safety of the corresponding exercise. So let's say you're spotting someone in bench. That spotter better be ready to hold that weight or get it off to you or help you out. Experienced spotter delivers adequate and ample support for the client to successfully exercise lift, especially when lifting through a sticking point. So, the best way to explain this: delivers adequate and ample supports. That could be emotional. You could do the yelling if you want to, depending on the person. When my wife spots me like on bench, I can't have her like yell at me because I don't know why, but I can't. It's weird when she yells in support. I guess I'm just used to her like yelling at me. But other people like, hey, I like to yell. Some people like will get hit. Some people like will smack their quads before like big squats, whatever that is. But for the experienced spotter, so you need to before the lift happens. Okay, all right. How many are you trying to get? 8. Okay. 8 reps. You have to know you'll be in the proper positioning. You have to pay attention. Okay, don't be distracted by looking at other things, your phone, other people, having a conversation with someone else, kind of thing, because the person underneath can hurt themselves. Okay, especially if they're like maxing out or going under 85% of their 1 RM or higher. Okay, so they really got to pay attention. And if they're like throwing a sticking point, so usually in bench is usually just past almost to the 45 degrees when they're trying to push up, they'll get like this little sticking point. Okay, and it's either like they'll break through it or they'll fail. So the spotters are going to know either maybe some slight help, or maybe if they're maxing out, you don't want to help them at all. You got to be ready for once they start to fail to kind of pick it up. Okay. Certified personal trainer is encouraged to spot the client's wrist instead of the elbows during when using dumbbells. Okay, spotting at the wrist provides better support for the lifter and eliminates the elbow collapsing forward. For example, if they're doing some kind of dumbbell shoulder press or dumbbell bench, usually don't want to grab up there like on the dumbbells. I'll actually go try and do under the elbows, personally, depending, because I'm not going to maneuver them too much. You can do the wrists. It's kind of the better positioning for you wherever you're at. Obviously, the spotting is going to vary depending on the different lifts. All right, so how NASM wants the spotting on the barbell squat is going to be 2 people on the side of the spotter and a third behind. Okay, so during barbell squat, the spotter should be positioned behind the lifter and place their arms under the person's armpits. Okay, it provides maximal spotting security between the spot and lifter. If you're trying to help someone get through their squat, this is a good spot to be. I mean, you're going to be up pretty much like spooning them. And then when they kind of get a sticking point, if you're just kind of helping them kind of get up a little bit, that's a good spot to be. I'll have my my arms under their armpits, and it's going to help just kind of lift them up. I'm doing my squat by myself. I'm not just kind of doing just my arms. It's my whole body, okay? You're pretty much spooning this person in a way, okay? And 2 people on the sides. I'm not a big fan of the people on the sides personally, just because I don't think they're going to do a ton, because they have to be really, really prepared, and they both have to be in sync, okay? So, I mean, if you have people that are good working together for this, it can be very, very effective. But people are not. Okay. But at least one person behind. Okay. And that's just going to help them out. But again, I'm not a big fan of some of these. Personally, well, let me get through this page and I'll move on to my stuff. So CPTs encourage to use additional spotters for exercises when the load surpasses what a single spotter can successfully manage on their own. Okay. And then for not recommended for professionals to spot on machine or cable-based exercises. Not really beneficial at all. Could increase chance of injury, especially when putting your hands near some of the weights that are stacked. All right, going back to the squat thing. I like to just bail it. Just bail the weight. For one, it's going to be faster, a little bit more efficient, and safer. Okay. Example of that. Okay, I'll show this quick video.
Episode of Weightlifting Academy.
So obviously this guy's lifting a good amount of weight. Okay. No spotter, even if you have 3 people. Okay, so I'm going to say this is over 300 pounds. Okay, without really knowing exactly what all these plates are. Okay. So imagine 3 people catching 300 pounds of weight. That can be very, very difficult. Okay, so that is a bail. Okay, that's a very, very good bail. Some instructors like to practice the bail, some don't. I practice them a little bit when I teach like weightlifting, just because, we cover it briefly because I want to see them bail, and I'm going to see how safe and easy it is.
Today we're going to talk about how to fail on a barbell back squat without dying or without killing anybody else. The most important things to remember are, number one, stay tight, and number two, fail on purpose. We'll get into specifics here in just a second about how to fail on a back squat, but remember, those two rules are immutable in any kind of serious failures that happen in the gym with a heavy barbell. You've got to keep especially your core, that is everything from your butt to your face, rigid, locked in, and tight. And you have to do this with intention. That is, you can't pretend as though you are a victim of Apollo who's striking you down right now. You are failing on purpose. You're doing this as an intentional act. Do not freak out and let your instincts take over. Your instincts will fuck you. Curling up into a ball and crying for mommy is an absolute surefire way to be crushed by a barbell. No matter what, stay tight and fail on purpose. Now let's get more specific with those extra things that you have to do with a back squat in order to fail safely. There are 3 rules that you need to follow in order to do this well. Only the first one is actually a technical rule, and it's this. You're going to take your hips and you're going to drive them forward. Watch what happens. As soon as the bar starts, he's saying, I'm done, right? The hips are already moving forward. Notice that? It's like right away. Instantaneously, hips forward. Notice this puts his torso in a position where his lower back is now out of the way of the barbell. You'll remember that's very similar to what has to happen in missing a snatch behind you. Obviously, your spine is something you want to protect. Now, rule number 2 is fast. Hips forward, fast. No matter what, go fast. In fact, let's say you screwed up and you really didn't work getting your hips forward very well, but you were moving your whole body forward really fast. You probably would still get out of the way of the bar. It's not ideal. It's not what you really want to be doing, but it's better than nothing. If you go fast, you'll probably be fine. Forward fast is better than nothing at all. Forward fast. Now the third rule, you must fail the instant your technique breaks down. I don't play that stupid game where people have the excuse that on a heavy lift, somehow it's okay for your technique to look shittier than it does on smaller lifts. That's not okay. That is completely banned in my gym. I will beat you with a PVC pipe, and it will be covered in Justin Bieber duct tape just to make you feel even more embarrassed. And imagine if this barbell started going down like this.
Anyway, so he keeps rambling on. That's a very good thing. Okay, get your hips forward. Okay, throw your hands off really quick. Okay, get out of there. Okay. And failing on purpose is very, very important, okay? As soon as you first feel your form going to shit or that you can't get this up forever way, just bail it, okay? Even bailing the weight is, so the weight follows, hits the ground, okay? So the lifting platforms here and this weight is made to be dropped, okay? And it makes a little noise. It's not going to really damage the weights. And this is really a safety thing, okay? So get out of the way, get your hands free, and he gets out of the way pretty quickly, for the most part. Make sure don't try and power through it by all means, because you're going to hurt yourself. Long story short. So as soon as you feel like, what's not happening, you get out of the way as fast as possible, okay? I'll try and post this video as well, up on the module. So I'm not a big fan of some of this. If it's a lighter weight and you got some bigger people inside, great. But usually just have them practice bailing, especially if they're a little bit more advanced. That's really a more common thing. If it's like if I'm spotting someone that's doing 115 pounds, I can just grab the bar. Okay. Pretty safely for me. It's not always the best recommended way to do that. But I'll first try and come underneath them. But if they're a smaller individual, for one, it may not be appropriate for me to come up behind them, especially the male to female, and also with the height difference. That's another big thing. Because I'm 6'2", and I have a hard time even spotting my wife for that same reason. Not because male-female, it's because she's shorter than me. All right, monitoring exercise. This is just a little thing on perceived exertion. I'm not a big fan of it. Just kind of rating how hard it is from 0 to 10. I don't find it really practical, personally. You say, hey, was that hard? Yeah, that was hard. Okay, cool. Got a thing. All right, so some of the safeties, so some of the different kind of kinetic chain checkpoints. Okay, so feet, approximately shoulder width apart, pointing straight ahead. You can have your toes pointed a little bit outward. That's okay. Knees in line with the second and third toes. Knees should always travel directly over your toes, between the second and third. Avoid your knees caving in. Hips level in a neutral position. Shoulders in neutral position. Avoid protracting or elevating shoulders unless exercise requires these positions, which usually doesn't. Or maybe at the end point it might, but that's it. Your head should be in neutral position with the rest of your spine during the entire time. Even her looking up like this is too much for me. Her head should be pointing down at this roughly this angle, because that's going to keep her cervical spine in line with the rest of her body. Okay, so going from the side view, okay, her back should be one straight the entire time, and down in the lower position, it should be parallel with her shins. Okay, and you don't have to force it. If they don't have that range of motion yet, don't force it off the bat. You can have them cheat a little bit. You can put some little weights under their heels or a block to help them with that little bit of range of motion stuff. If they try and force it and they have like the butt wink where their back or their lower butt arches a little too much, kind of shifts posteriorly. Maybe stop them right before that. The anterior view, their shoulders should be parallel, hips should be parallel, knees over the toes. Even if their knees go out a little bit, as long as their toes are going out at the same time, that's fine. Really important. Make sure they're not shifting and sitting down on one leg versus the other. Okay. Sometimes people have like a more of a dominant leg as a result of injury or confidence, whatever it is. That's another big aspect. And I'll keep the spine, especially the cervical spine, in line with the rest of the body. Okay. And as soon as you start like bending forward too much for whatever it happens, just bail the weight. Also, if you're using, go back up to this picture. Let's say if you actually have like supports, use them by all means. That's what they're made for. Okay. If you're like in a cage, in a squatting cage, like this is in a cage, cage will come out with two more supports out here. Okay. And usually a bar that usually runs across, and you'll be in there doing like the bigger like squats, for example. Because that way, if you bail, it lands on that, and you could, even if you don't know how to bail it, you can just collapse, and the bar, the safety rail should support that. Okay. So that's really important. If you have it, use it. Make sure it's set up appropriately for that person's height. Okay. So my squat, my safety bar would be a little bit higher than my wife's just because there's a big height difference. Okay. And it's not recommended that we share the same height when we do the same squat, because me bailing, I could fall all the way down and the safety bar won't be in place yet because my wife squats deeper than I do because she's shorter. Is a big factor. Okay. Proper breathing technique. Okay, so this is a really common, easy one. So you want to exhale or breathe out through your mouth during all concentric phases. And you're breathing in during all eccentric phases. Okay. So like, let's say I'm on bench, okay, and when I am pushing, okay, pushing out, that my concentric phase, I'm usually breathing out, okay. Usually people scream during this. And then when it's coming down, I'm kind of breathing in, usually how it goes. Valsalva maneuver, there's a process that involves expiring against a closed windpipe, creating additional intra-abdominal pressure and spinal stability. Okay. Benefits during heavy resistance exercises, that intra-abdominal pressure helps with spine stabilization. Dangers of Valsalva can cause lightheadedness, dizziness, impede on the return of venous blood to the heart, and raise an individual's heart rate and blood pressure. They can substantially increase your blood pressure. Okay. Not recommended for clients with hypertension. Don't even do it. Okay. May not be necessary for most clients seeking to lose weight and improve health. Okay, so one really easy way of the Valsalva that you probably do daily, hopefully, is when you're on the toilet trying to take poop. Okay, that kind of bearing down, that's a Valsalva maneuver. Okay, in a way. So doing the same thing, usually we'll exercise. A lot of people hold their breath, It's not recommended they hold their breath for long periods of time, usually just during that exercise or that one kind of rep. And then breathing is really the best way. And you want to do it for longer periods of time. And again, you don't want to poop while doing a squat. Okay. That's just a better way than what they kind of describe it as expiring against a closed windpipe. All right, so some guidelines for resistance training. Some different parameters. Okay, so you want to progress from easy to hard, simple to complex, static to dynamic, slow to fast. You always will start out with stabilization, then go to strength and then power. Okay. The volume, okay, sets, low, moderate, high, depending on what you're trying to do. Reps, same thing. Range of motion. So is the exercise full? Is it partial? Is it end range only? So is that only the end, like bicep flexion? Is that only like this last little bit, the end range? Okay. Okay. Or is the end range here? Okay. A lot of things vary, a lot of those. You have a lot of mixed ranges. Okay. If you've ever heard of sevens on bicep curls, it's usually you're going to do 7 end range, okay, bicep curls. And then you might do 7 the other end range, the first, okay. And then you do 7 full range. Okay, that's a mixed range example. Planes of motion, whatever it is, sagittal, frontal, transverse, multiplanar, okay, whatever exercise is. Usually you want to try and incorporate multiple. The speed of motion, that varies a lot on whatever you're trying to accomplish on your goals. Slow, medium, fast, explosive. And the resistance, okay. Body weight's always a good one, and then you start increasing it from there. All right, resistance training progressions. Okay, when introducing resistance exercises into a program, optimize ideal movement patterns. Okay, squatting, pushing, vertical pressing, and a hip hinge. Systematic progression of resistance training. Okay, stabilization or strength and power. Okay, a lot of times if I'm trying to do something, I'll try and do exercise for all of these. If I'm doing like full body stuff. For example, you have a squat, which is in a way a hip hinge. And then you have a push and a pull. Okay. So I might do push, maybe I'll do bench or like dumbbell bench. And then my pull is I'm going to do bent over rows. And I could do even vertical press, which could be lots of vertical press. Overhead press, for example, whatever it is. I'll try and incorporate all of those if possible into a workout, especially if I'm trying to get like a quick full body workout done in that day. Some other progressions. Okay, here's a stabilization. Okay, so bilateral and unilateral movements focus on core. Here's a double leg with the standing cables. Okay, so there's doubles, there's alternating, and this is just a single. Okay, focus a little bit more on the core, especially in the single, because her whole body is stabilized for that. Here's another stabilization focus exercise. Okay, single leg rows, double, alternating, and then one hand only. Okay, obviously amongst these, this is the easiest, and then it gets slowly harder and harder, and then the next stage, harder, harder, harder kind of thing. Resistance training progression. Okay, kneeling kettle bottom up exercise. Okay, so it's overhead press. That's all it is. One arm up. Okay, and then the earthquake bar. Okay, which is like a special bar that kind of shifts and moves a little bit, and then usually hang a weight, whatever it is, usually kettlebell underneath it. And these are usually exercise tubings. And as you go over weight, like it's just pretty much sheer stabilization. Okay, it usually doesn't happen very quickly, or you can just hold it above your head and just try and hold it as things bounce and sway and move and all that stuff. Strength focus exercises. Okay, focus on building strength and muscle hypertrophy. Okay, so there's a number of different examples. So the ones they give you is the squat, RDL, bench press, amongst others. So like here's the squat. Here's the RDL. So this is the your starting position, which is a little too bent over for me, and then your standing position. The RDL, the Romanian deadlift, is just you're picking something off the ground to a standing up position. And then here's the bench press. Power focus exercises. Okay, exercises that are designed to increase the rate of force production. Okay, so medicine ball throws. Here is a power focus resistance exercise. So this is a kind of like single leg step up to a jump. All right, resistance training exercises. Okay, here is just a list of like total body. Okay, so we have ball squat, curl press. So now you're incorporating multiple exercises into one motion. Okay, multi-planar step up, balance, and curled overhead press. Okay, and all these are in the book. Okay, or you can just Google them, for example. And then try and incorporate just like total body activities. Okay, and this is really good if you're like in a time crunch, so you can try and get the more bang for your buck. Okay, and there's different variations. Here's a chest pushing kind of exercise. So you do push-ups, hands like on a ball, or like one hand on a ball, in different variations. Here's your back or pulling exercises. And I'm not going to go over all of these. Here's a shoulder vertical press. Okay, so we got tubing, we got ball combos, we got seated dumbbells, and so forth. Here's all your bicep work. Single leg, standing, machines. Triceps, similar thing, skull crushers, cable pushdowns, close grip bench. Leg exercises, okay. So we got ball squats, single leg RDLs, and the list goes on all the way down. Okay, I mean, these are just examples for you. There's obviously a ton of other exercises. There's a lot of exercises that have multiple names for it. A lot of times you can probably make up your own exercise, have a little fun with some things, and so forth. So with that is the resistance training kind of PowerPoint.